Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we talk to growers from across the greenhouse industry about market trends, innovation, their biggest challenges and opportunities, and more. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower. For this episode of Greenhouse Grower to Grower, I'm turning things over to our senior editor, Julie Hullett. Julie recently caught up with Cheryl Wagner, who runs a small greenhouse business near Ann Arbor, Michigan. In addition to being a staple at the Ann Arbor Farmers Market, Cheryl also hosts an annual art and garden show at her greenhouse, the most recent one taking place on May 5th. The event allows local artisans to display and sell their products at the greenhouse. Julie's conversation with Cheryl offers an inside look at how a small greenhouse business operates. I hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Well, my grandparents actually started at the Western Market, not the Eastern Market in Detroit. Eastern Market is still functioning. Western Market went by the wayside when they put in some new expressways in Detroit area. And so that is no longer a market. They took, I think, some vegetables and a little bit of flowers, and that was during Depression time. And my grandparents and my father always said that people will always buy flowers during Depression or bad times, mostly because it makes them feel good. So they always seem to find a little bit of money to buy flowers for that. My parents actually started with 4 acres of iris. And my dad was a welding engineer, but then he got rheumatoid arthritis and could no longer work. So they put up some greenhouses and they started selling at the Ann Arbor Market, which is now, this year, I think, is 105 years strong.
Oh, wow. How exciting.
Yes. And with the flowers and that, well, my brother and I ended up having to help build those greenhouses and stuff, as my dad got more crippled up and stuff. But the flower variety back then was mostly geraniums, marigolds, some alyssum, ageratum, petunias, which are all still growing today, but the varieties have changed so much, and it's just so much more interesting to grow things now than it was back then. I didn't like it as a child, but I had to do it to help out, with the business and that. Look at my other notes here and stuff.
It's interesting as people are growing up in a certain environment, or their parents just happen to have a certain business, and you kind of get roped into helping, even if you don't want to and you don't like it. But even as you grew into adulthood and could make your own career and business choices, this is still something that you chose to do. So I'm
Right.
assuming you grew more fond of it over time.
I did, and that afforded me the time to raise my children and be home with them and stuff. So, it worked out really well. And I say, I just love the creativity that we have available now to do a lot of things and have so much more plant material to work with and stuff.
Mm-hmm. What crops are you guys growing now? What all's included?
Oh gosh, I grow 200 to 300 varieties of things. And even though I've only have 10,000 square feet of greenhouse space, which is small, but it's a lot for 2 people to manage.
Mm-hmm.
Our children do help out with the transplanting season, and they help out, at the markets. And we've had, for 11 years, we've had this art and garden show, always the first Sunday in May before Mother's Day. So we invite artisans and others to set up booths, and we open our greenhouses. And over the years, it has really grown. People really look forward to it. And so far, the Lord has blessed us with great weather every year. So that's worked out really well.
Can you tell me a little more about the show? Is it something, it sounds like you guys host it at your greenhouse?
Yes, we open our greenhouses. We have plenty of parking area. And so people line the streets as well as our parking and stuff. A lot of them are my customers that come from all over Detroit area. and we advertise in a lot of places throughout Ann Arbor and some of the local magazines in Ann Arbor. We have customers that come, like I say, from all over Detroit area out here. And we try to keep some unique things. We go to the Cultivate exhibition every year down in Ohio to seek out the new plants. And then we also go to there's 5 different areas in Michigan where different growers actually do trial gardens. And so we go to seek out the trial gardens and see what's new and what has flourished in our area, and what we want to present for our customers each year. And
Mhm.
so that gives us, new opportunities to present new plants. And I have to kind of weed out some of the old ones. Okay, if that didn't sell real well or they didn't like it real well, then we put in something new for them to purchase. And we do give a lot of custom uh, care for our customers. Especially since COVID, they've been able to come out one-on-one and make appointment times and answer all their questions that they have, help them design, whether it's gardens or containers, um, or, ask them all the questions. Is it sunshade where you want to plant these? Are they house plants, or, what do you want to do with them? And colors of your house, all that kind of little aspects to consider for them to make a decision on what they'd like to purchase. And so my kids have grown up with that, and they're very good at helping the customers with that kind of a knowledge too.
So are your customers primarily independent consumers, or do you also sell to landscapers or garden centers?
No, I do not do garden centers and that. We do sell to Zingerman's in Ann Arbor, Treckelman's in Ann Arbor. Most of them are individual customers. Some of my customers over the years have come back and said, "Oh, that my gardens were so beautiful," and they had some type of contact that they were in the Better Homes and Garden magazine. This year, the magazine escapes me, but another fella came by and they were on the garden tour, which a number of my customers are on the Ann Arbor Garden Tour every year. Um, and they said, "Oh, the magazines have come out and taken pictures and that, and so we're going to be featured, and I'll let you know when it comes out." So they were all
That's
excited
always good.
about that. Yeah,
Got to get the good word out.
right.
Let's talk a little bit about varieties, because I know you mentioned that you come to Cultivate every year and you look
Mhm.
at the varieties that are being trialed in Michigan. When you're looking for new offerings or new additions, what exactly are you looking for? Things that customers ask about, or something that's especially unique or different?
I look for what's unique and different. I look for color combinations that I think my customers will like. Um, Textures of the leaves, all of that kind of things that gives more interest to what a container garden, because a lot of them are container garden people, but a lot of them are, have big areas that they can still plant in. But yeah, I look for all of that variety that makes a good combination of plants that are interesting for people, whether they're annuals or perennials.
Mhm. Are there any particular trends that you've seen the last couple years? For example, I've heard a lot about new patterns coming out, like on some of the speckled petunias or variegated leaves, things like that.
This year I went wild with the coleuses that were all new. And a lot of people, even though our weather has been cold, they've been buying some of the coleuses and that, just because they know I grow in small quantities, and that affords me the space to grow a lot of varieties. And so people can have a choice, because if they only need one plant of this or one plant of that, they can, put together a nice combination or a nice corner in their garden of just a few plants in that. So I look for the textures, I look for the speckled leaves, the design of the leaves, textures and colors. The new red maple petunia, that's pretty exciting this year, and it goes nice with some of the other varieties that I've grown in the past, like the cosmic purple. And is it sunset something or other, but that combination is really like an eye popper now and stuff. So
Yeah, I agree. I like that one too. I like it because it's just the perfect color to keep around for a little bit, as long as you can, at least in Cleveland
yeah,
where I live. But to put in your fall planters as well, because I've
right,
noticed right at the end of the summer, when it's really time for the annuals to, they've run their course, that's when they look the most full and the most beautiful. So it works out perfectly to take that one, the red maple, and just put it in right with my mom's when I buy them like in September,
right,
that
right,
well.
yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot of people, consider that too, that okay, things that I plant now of the golden and the orange and red colors and stuff, they're going to last my garden throughout the fall. And that the people that put in the pinks and the purples, well, maybe they have to add something or change something up, when it comes towards fall and stuff, so they can make it look more for the season. So
Absolutely. That's a really key lesson that I think you pointed out, is just how to adapt your offerings so that they can be long lasting and fit whatever combination the customer is looking for their home.
right, right, yeah.
It, it sounds like you've been in the greenhouse business for a long time. If you started, helping your parents build greenhouses, are there any lessons that you've learned over the years or advice that you would pass along to the next generation?
Uh, every year is a trial and error, you
Yes.
know, and I'm sure that's for everybody and stuff. Um, I guess you have to have the passion if you're going to get into this business, because it is long hours. And if you really care about your plants and want quality plants, which most of my customers come back to me because they say you have the best plants, and I appreciate that. But I do really have the passion for the flowers, and like I say, long hours and tedious things. You need to, look for disease all the time, for bugs all the time, making sure your plants are spaced and just, offer your customer quality plants as well as the quality knowledge about how to take care of them and stuff. So you have to really educate yourself, and every year is a new education too, because when we get new plant material, you have to educate yourself as well as educate your customer on how to take care of them.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about education, is how do you guys educate the customer? Is it mostly like one-on-one conversations, or do you also have some signage or informational brochures that are helpful to them?
I don't do the brochures. We do a one-on-one mostly with them. Tell them, how to put things together and what things will grow well together, and that, whether it's, shade or sun or annual, perennial. Um, we also have signage at our market and that, and in our greenhouses. So not only what the name is, but a little explanation on how to take care of it, and, whether it's for sun or shade, and where to put it, and how things can go together. So
Have you found with the one-on-one conversations, is it something that you guys as the greenhouse operators have to kind of initiate, or do the customers come in with questions and then you're able to, answer whatever they're looking for?
oh, they have lots of questions always. And like I say, over the years, my children have either listened to me or, read up on things and stuff too, that I tell people that's my reading material. I'm not reading a lot of these books and stories. I just don't have the time. I'm reading more of the periodicals on how to take care of plants or how to grow things and what to look for, as far as disease or anything else. So that's my main reading material.
It sounds like
But
it's beneficial to the business though. It's good
oh,
reading material.
oh, definitely, definitely, yes. And we get the greenhouse grower and produce grower and all the other ones and stuff, so that we have a little bit of knowledge and kind of keep a well balanced knowledge about different things going on and stuff, so that we can present that to our customers too.
Are there any other books maybe that you found that are especially helpful, that might be helpful to other growers too?
I can't name specific books, but any material that you can get on growing. There's things on herbs. A lot of people like the herbs and that, and they mix some of those even in their containers and that, and we suggest that. So you need to know a little bit of knowledge about how the people can use the herbs of that, not only medicinally, but in a container for the looks of it, and how to grow them and stuff. So our area is big on sustainability and the cultures and that, and kind of back to nature type things a little bit. And so they look for that knowledge too.
Do they ever come with questions about being sustainable, whether it's how they can be sustainable in their own gardens, or what types of practices you guys are doing at the greenhouse that are sustainable?
A little bit of that. Some people are more into it than others. We try to grow as organically as we can. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for us to, watch for bugs and what things to do for those, and disease and stuff. And so we seek out any of the organic products that are available to do that with. And that's one thing that many of our customers like, because we don't use a lot of the chemicals on our plants, and especially on our vegetables or anything else. So they're happy for that.
Have you seen that interest shift at all over the years? Like, are people more interested in organics now than they were in the past, or has that been pretty consistent?
I think a lot of them maybe a little bit more, but for our area here and stuff, they've always been conscious of that, I think, and stuff. But yeah, I think it's grown over the years and stuff, and they're getting more and more as you read and see other things that are happening around the world and stuff, that they're more conscious of it, I think.
Mm-hmm. What have you found for some of your production practices? Like, I know earlier you mentioned that it's, as for everybody, it's always tough to scout for any pests and diseases. Are there any tips or tricks that you found that work especially well for crop protection?
No.
We all
Every,
try.
every year's still a trial and error on that. We use safer soap, and we use, like I say, any of the other organic things that we can find. Cleanliness is one thing. Beginning is, making sure that you've sanitized your greenhouses. That's probably one of the basic things, is make sure you get out and do that. And we do that at least 2 to 3 times a year. And that's probably one of the basic practices, is just cleanliness.
Mm-hmm. How do you guys sanitize the greenhouses? Is it mostly some sort of antibacterial or antimicrobial products?
We use Zerotrol, which is a peroxide horticultural base, and spray down all of the all the benches, greenhouses, everything else and stuff, and clean up any debris or anything else after each product is in and out of the greenhouse and that. So you just have to constantly scout for that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that from other growers too, just the importance of making sure that your facility is extremely clean at the start of your season, and then again at the very end, to make sure that any pests or diseases that you might have had along the way are just completely cleared out, eliminated, so that you're not going into another season with the same problem that you had before.
Right. Like I say, I think that's one of the basics, and a big help. To just know to be cleanly about things and stuff, and pick up any debris, or clean up dead blossoms and that throughout the season, even, because as a small grower, I can go through and clean that up as we're going through the greenhouse each day, and that, so that helps throughout the season.
Mm-hmm. I know you mentioned that you have about 10,000 square feet of production space. Does that make for a pretty small team? I know you said that your children were involved too with the business.
Well, my husband and I do 95% of it, so it's a lot of work, and a lot of long hours, for just the two of us. But yes, the children come in for helping load the trucks for market. They come in and help, clean and pack flats for the flats that go to the market. Um, One-on-one with the customers when they come to the house here is my husband and I, because my children both have other jobs. So, they're working long hours along with us. So,
Yeah, it really takes a lot of dedication to be in this business. As you said, it's a good place to be, but it's not exactly easy work, you know.
right, right. And like I say, you have to have the passion for it and want to do it. There's times when you say, why am I doing it? Yeah, it's very rewarding, and you can do as much or as little as you want. And that's where the reward is when it comes to the finished product. So,
hmm
so when your customers come back and say that they like what you've done and you have the best plants and continue to come back year after year. I've had customers for probably 40 years.
Oh,
um
wow.
yeah, that come back year after year, and some of them put their orders in like last October. They've already ordered for what they want for the next year, and then when they come and see new things, then they add new things to their garden. So it's rewarding.
How do you build that loyalty over time? Because that's one of the things that I hear a lot about from growers is that if you can keep the same customers while also adding more, that's really the key to expanding your business over time.
I think because my product is good, and they come back not only for the knowledge, for the product, and by word of mouth from their friends. They tell their friends, this is the place to go to buy what you think will be a good product and will last. We stand behind our plants. If something fails or whatever, I'm always willing to replace it. So we give quality care to our customers, and I think that's what keeps them coming back.
Yeah, sounds like you've really built a good reputation and a good name for yourselves up there.
Yep, yep. I can't pat myself on the back, but it is rewarding to hear when people come back and say that they're happy with what they've got, and appreciate what we do. So
hmm How do you and your husband divvy up the responsibilities? Do you guys have certain tasks for who does what, or everyone kind of does everything?
no, I'm probably 99% the grower, and my husband does all the maintenance, and helps out whatever he does, any of the care when I say, okay, I need something sprayed over here because there was some aphids on it, or I need something moved out or whatever. So, we divvy up our jobs and that, but like I say, I do probably 99% of the growing part of it. We all transplant, the kids and us, we all, get in there and work long weekends and stuff to get the transplanting done initially. But after
Mhm.
that, it's, you know, me to watch the growing part of it and stuff. So,
So I'm assuming this is probably a really busy time of year for you then, the spring, especially leading up to Mother's Day.
oh, definitely, definitely. Yep. Like I said, I've had orders since last fall, and people are continually calling in orders and wanting to come out and pick their things up and stuff. And mainly it's watching the weather. For when I say, yeah, it's safe, you can get this or you can get that. And people are happy that we do try to pass on that knowledge to them, that no, it's too early. There's going to be a frost yet, so unless you want to come back and pick up again, or if you want to, store your plants or whatever, that's up to you. But, just, watching the weather and being careful with what we allow them to have too early and stuff, like maybe tomato plants or basil or impatiens or whatever. Some people get real anxious when we've had this roller coaster of weather this year, that they're all anxious to get in the gardens. And I say, no, you just be a little bit careful yet. So,
Yeah, I know. I've learned that the hard way myself too. Some of the breeders will send trial plants for me to plant over the summer. And last year I got some of them in March and it was really early and in Cleveland it just wasn't warm enough yet. And I was trying to keep them in my apartment, but I don't have all that much space. And this year I bought a greenhouse, like a little walk-in greenhouse for $40 at Aldi's. And I put it
Oh,
in my grandma's backyard, and that's where they all are now until there's no more frosts and I can
oh.
leave them outside.
Well, that was good thinking.
Thank you. I tried. I wanted to save them this year. Um, as we mentioned, it sounds like you've been in the business for a long time. And how have you guys learned to manage it, especially with just kind of the two of you working on it? Are there any business practices that you found are especially helpful, or things that you would recommend to, other family businesses that might be listening?
The only thing is that you really have to, like I say, have the passion for it. You really have to put in the long hours, be dedicated to what you're doing, whether it's, vegetable plants or perennials or annuals or whatever. You just have to be knowledgeable about what you're doing. That's probably first and foremost. Know your plants ahead of time. And know your customers for your area that you're going to be selling in, um, and just have to be dedicated to it. So,
Yeah, I know that people do make a very lucrative full-time business out of this, but the heart that comes into it, it still kind of has to be a passion project. It's not a
right,
9 to 5 that you can clock out of at the end of the day.
right. Well, my husband years ago worked for the phone company, and then when he was going to retire, I said, "Well, it's work for Ma Bell or Ma Wagner." So you have you have to make up your mind where you want to work. So uh, he 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 at that time would come home from work and still work, even after hours from his other job until dark, usually most of the time, getting things done and stuff and helping me out. So our business has grown over the years, and like I say, even though we're small, we do have a lot of clientele, and the variety that we offer, I think, is what keeps bringing people back. So you always have to keep looking for new things. That's one thing I would offer to people too. Look for new things and new varieties. Know your clientele so that you know they what you think they might like. Um, and just, be on top of things all the time.
Hmm. One last question for you. It sounds like you guys have been in the business for a long time, but there's still more to look forward to, and still more that you guys are always out looking for, like the new varieties and new additions to your collection. So what are you excited about for the future of floriculture?
Oh gosh, just the continued variety, the creativity of things, and in fact, during COVID, I started doing some watercolor painting, which I never thought I could draw more than a straight line. But and I do paint flowers, so I look for the creativity of that, as well as, being able to find new and different and interesting plant material to offer to my customers. So uh, every year there's so much more, whether it's a petunia color or variety, or like the coleuses this year and stuff. So that's what I continue to look for, is new things.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned about painting flowers that kind of started during COVID, because I noticed a similar thing. I don't paint, I can't paint for my life, but I noticed that so many things that I have in my bedroom, like decorations or things like some of my clothes, they all have flowers on them. And my grandma was saying something about, how come you just started working with flowers the last 2 years? You've been wearing and buying things with flowers since you were a little kid. And the more I look around, I'm like, oh my goodness, they really are everywhere.
I find that too. My clothes over the years have always had some kind of flowers on them and stuff. So I guess it's just in my nature. So
Right. It's just something
yeah,
we like.
yes, and that's happy. It makes people happy. They feel good when they're growing flowers or buying flowers and that. Like I said, my dad always said people bought them during depression and that because it made people happy in sad times. So It doesn't have to be a sad time, and it just makes you feel good. And, whether the colors of the flowers or the textures or whatever that you put together, it's a good feeling, and people like to feel good. So my parents actually went into a warehouse business at the same time that we had the greenhouses, and we were the only ones in the area that would warehouse supplies for all the greenhouses. So we had customers all the way from northern Michigan into Ohio and Indiana that would come and pick up supplies. And we had that business for about 25 years. After my dad passed, then my mom and I kind of kept it going. But then when she wanted to retire, that afforded me the time to put up more greenhouses for my husband and I, and that's what we did. And we got rid of the warehouse business and that. So, I think we touched on a lot of the other things other than our Ann Arbor market. I think I want to elaborate a little bit on that, because that has been changing. Even though it's 105 years old, a lot of the plant people have maybe passed on, and the ones that are still there are second and third generation people that are left. And the market kind of is changing more to food vendors. And I hope that plant people will continue to come and survive, and that more younger generation people will continue to come in there and keep it going and that. So that's maybe a problem for a lot of other markets too. I'm not sure, but at least for our market area, that's what we find. So
It started out completely plants, right? And now it's switching to more food vendors.
yeah, that seems to be, like small space food vendors instead of us larger growers that, take up a few more spaces and that for our plant material and that in the springtime and that. We do get a lot of, vegetable growers later on, and cut flowers and that kind of thing, but it seems more individual. People want the quick gratification to grab something that they can take home and eat or prepare or whatever easily and stuff. And so I'm just hoping that more plant people will start supporting the market. And if not, then you see the bigger greenhouses that are popping up in areas and stuff. So, that might be the way that people are going and stuff, to go to plant stands or the greenhouse themselves as they come here too, rather than the markets. So
That's interesting. Do you have any idea why maybe were less plant vendors in recent years? Like maybe they just weren't getting as much business as they were hoping for or something like that?
some of them have built bigger greenhouse areas, and so like I say, the customers are coming out to their greenhouse rather than at the market. But for the Ann Arbor market, it's a place of, or a plan of parking. The city is building buildings on the former parking lots and parking areas and stuff. And so there's less and less parking, and people are, having to drive around forever to find a spot to park. I tell my customers, I said, it's 20 minutes to drive around to find a parking space, and in 20 minutes you can be at my home. So, so
Yeah.
a lot of them have chose to come out here, and they can park right by the greenhouse. They don't have to, carry their items for blocks to get back to their car and stuff. So it's a lot handier. And then, then they get the one-on-one attention here at the house too. So
Yeah, that's a good point. It might be a little more convenient to just come to the house from that point of view too.
right. So, unfortunately, like I said, I build up my customers there in the Ann Arbor, but they still come out here, and they enjoy our art and garden show, which is a nice thing too. So I appreciate that they come out and support that, and support our local artisans and stuff that come here and attend. So
For the art and garden show, what type of art do you guys have there? Is it for display or for purchase?
both, most of them, they're not usually working artists as they're here, but they can do that if they choose. But we have metal artists, we have pottery, we have watercolor, we have acrylics. We get a few craft people mixed in there and stuff that do some other things. But I belong to our art association too, so I like to support our artisans and that. So it gives them an opportunity to set up a booth and sell their products too.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an idea of how many attendees you usually get for that show?
We get over 1,000 people, which is good for
Wow.
just a small little show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. That's why I say, even though we have a good size, because we have 20 acres here, we have a good sized parking area, but they also end up lining up the street and everything else. So it's a good event for the day.
Mm-hmm. Good. It's nice to get people out to the greenhouses so they can see exactly what you guys do and they can shop and enjoy themselves. I feel like having an experience in addition to buying the plants kind of builds that customer relationship, and they'll remember next year, oh, I went to that fun art and garden show and I want to go there again and get my plants,
Right, right.
Thanks for joining us. You can learn more at greenhousegrower.com. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen, and please leave us a rating as it helps other podcast listeners find the show.